Hello, Luis. Let's give your classmates a few more minutes, about four. Go ahead and add your name and group to the chat, and we'll start taking attendance. And we'll start in about 3 minutes. Okay, looked like we had Monica for a couple seconds there, but she left, and we have one more person. Well, let's roll with the both of you. Hello, Manuel. So today was gonna be our final class. So in this class, I'm gonna go through some reviews. I'm gonna go through some new content as well, and wanna make sure that you get as much practice before you do your final exams, right? Don't forget full name and group in the chat manual, and we'll use that for attendance. Now, in our session today, I'm going to start off, as you can see on the screen, with a look at what we're doing in this last unit, Unit 6, and that's conditionals and reported speech. Now, last week we looked at conditionals, and we said that conditional phrases tend to have a very simple structure. You have a if clause, or the condition, and you have a main clause, or the result. And we have two types of future possibility conditions. One is the first conditional, which is very useful when we're talking about predicting clinical outcomes, because it looks at real risks, probable outcomes, creating scenarios where we have a very clear present condition. And from that present condition, if all things stay the same, then we will have very clear possible future events or results. This one is particularly useful when we're giving advice, when we're planning, and we're creating probabilities for treatment. An example of this would be if the patient doesn't floss, the gingivitis will worsen. If we extract their tooth now, we will feel better tomorrow. Both of these situations have current conditions and future results. And we know we can always change will to other modals, but the goal is pretty much the same. Talk about what the future probable likely results will be. On the flip side, some of our situations are unreal. So we have to kind of hypothesize and think about what would we like in our dream world? What would our wishes be? And these imaginary scenarios help us when we are trying to also give advice, but usually when, based on current situations, we're having some difficulty because the normal result is unlikely. So we imagine an ideal scenario and what the ideal results would be. And as you can tell, here we're using in our if clause the past simple, and in our main clause the result would be would plus an infinitive form of the verb. Examples of this is if we had a 3D scanner, the diagnosis would be faster. If the patient were here, I would begin the procedure. And yes, were. For all of the different subject lines, when we're doing our conditional phrases, we're going to use were with all of them. For example, if I were your specialist, I would recommend you start a new cleaning regimen. You need to be using mouthwash and you need to be using a different type of toothpaste. And if possible, there are some foods that you need to take out of your diet. All right. So you could change your modal, but the goal is to create an ideal scenario. Now, these ideal scenarios do one or two things. They show your patience. One, this is going to happen. All right. If you take the antibiotics on time, you're going to feel better. You will see results because these conditions equal these results. But there are other times where your patient, they're not really following instructions or they came to you in a really bad situation. So immediate recourse is not necessarily possible. But you can create ideal scenario for them and then show them what actions they need to make things more possible. For example, if I were you, I would opt for the implant. Obviously, I'm not the patient. I can only give the patient advice. They need to take the decisions. Usually, we're using this one when we're giving them advice, we're trying to show them the possible outcomes, even though it's a low probability because they have not been doing all that they can. Usually, this involves miraculous recoveries. The better we do at creating clear scenarios, the better it will be for our patients to take good decisions. Now, that's what we did in last class. In this unit, we also need to take a look at the use of reported speech. And as the last class in your unit, I want to make sure that we kind of look at all three of these together. When it comes to reported speech, there is a general outline. The way we speak is either in the moment and we are doing the sharing with the end listener, or the information is being shared in a new context. And these are called direct or indirect speech. Most of our conversations are direct speech. I tell you, you tell me, blah, 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 blah. However, there are times when we share the information from a conversation, whether it's written or spoken form, with someone else. This new sharing of the information in stories, in medical reports, on the news, is called direct speech. We're taking the quote, we're taking the information from someone else's conversation, and we are sharing it. Therefore, whatever the main speaker says is going to be shared with a new speaker. Therefore, there are some changes that you're going to make with your phrases. For example, when it comes to the quotes themselves, it's no longer a quote. So these words here are transformed versions of these. This is the person speaking, and this is you sharing it with someone else. What do you notice here? In this sentence, it had quotation marks. The quotation marks are no longer needed. It's no longer a direct sharing from one person to the next. The next thing you are changing is connecting your sentence that you're sharing with the type of report that is being delivered. Now, most of your reports are going to be just reporting statements. All right. So a very common way is to just transform say or tell. And of course, it really depends on your sentences. As you can tell, say is very common, tell is very common. You have others like asking and answering or clarifying. All right. Now, these are all different types of sentences. So depending on your sentence, you'll have your connector. An additional change that you'll do is making sure that the time that you're sharing the information is reflected in your new speech. The direct speech could have been in that moment a progressive activity, but you're no longer talking about something on Friday. Today's Saturday. So there's going to be a change in your verb tense. It was present continuous then. That's now the past continuous. And those changes will happen based on whatever initial tense you had. You'll make a back shift. When it comes also to the people and the time and the places, those will also have minor changes. So here we see Wendy talking about Ron. So Ron is a he. When you share this information, you're not going to say you're not Wendy. You're going to make sure you transform these little pieces into appropriate pronouns to match the new share. And time. If in that moment you were talking, it's going to be changing a little bit to match the new scenario. Now, there are lots of different changes that undergoes uh, these direct statements to the indirect or reported speech, and we'll have a lot of uses for them. make sure that you take some time to kind of understand one, why we're changing, for example, the object pronouns. So who was the subject in your original sentence and who is now the object in the new sentence. There's also going to be a good use of different verbs. Depending on the type of situation, you'll go with say, tell, but you'll also use ask, answer, admit, refuse, demand, declare. So there's lots of those, as well as your time expressions. Super important that you're able just give good expressions of time, not just with the reported speech, also with the conditional phrases, and in general as you give details in your sentences. Now, let's double back. We know that one, as we look at our phrases, we will know what type of reporting is happening. And we know we have to do a transformation. For example, I have pain. This is your patient talking to you. You, as you write or you share the information with your colleague, will share what the patient said. The patient said that, in this case, it's a he had pain. Notice the transformations. No quotation marks, shift in perspective for the nouns, for the time expressions, and for the pronouns. Now, depending on the situation, you're going to make your back shifts. So if it's a present simple situation, I brush daily, you're going to shift backwards to past simple. He said he brushed daily. If it's a present continuous situation, you're going to shift from I am bleeding to a past continuous situation. She said she was bleeding. If it was a past simple situation, my tooth broke, you're going to move it to past perfect. He told me his tooth had broken. And if it's a situation with a modal, I will call tomorrow. You're going to make sure you are shifting the modal as well. She said she would call the next day. Notice that you also make changes with the pronouns and with the time expressions. I, we, my, our, those are going to shift to the he or she, or they, or his or her, or their. For example, my gums bleed when I brush, doctor. The patient stated that his gums bled when he brushed. Notice my time change. Notice my pronoun change. Also, try to pay attention to the different time expressions in your sentences. Those will undergo change as well. Now, since we're looking at the exams, it's important that I quickly refresh your memory on something else that we worked on here in this particular session. A couple of weeks ago, we were also looking at the use of noun phrases and clauses. Now, in a noun phrase, you're going to have things like the pre-modifiers, the noun, and its post-modifiers. Articles, quantifiers, these are things that you find in the pre-modifier. They come before the noun, like an and the. If you're going to do a little bit more, you might need to add additional pre-modifiers. Now, when it comes to using your noun phrases, usually that's because you're in some sort of clause, you're expressing some sort of information. It's really important that you share details, particularly in the medical field, we care about details a lot, sometimes even more than the people. The details are super important. So don't just say, I see a tooth. I see a fractured central incisor with severe enamel erosion. Notice I used my articles. I used descriptive words. I used very clear connectors as well. Now, the goal there is to either make sure the information is clear from the beginning or that we add the essential details. Now, let me, I think you're seeing the right screen. When it comes to our clauses, these are some examples of the pronouns we use, and we're using them either here to make sure that we identify specific things, or we add extra details if our sentences are open. Now, for you guys, your goal is to make sure that you finish strong. So, I know some of you have already done so. So congratulations again. I think I said it to some of you in person. You're doing a really good job. Make sure you finish out really well. For example, today, after we wrap up, jump on the portal. Your first goal is to make sure that you've completed everything in this unit, loaded those things into your folder, and then take the opportunity to complete the evaluatory activity for these two units, 5 and 6. And then tomorrow, if you've done that, my recommendation is go ahead and do final exam 6. Get those things out the way. The deadline for everything here is Tuesday. But on Monday, one of the things I'd love for you to make sure you do is to go and check. Did I complete everything else in this second block? If by chance you missed the opportunity to get extra points in this last activity that we're doing for spring, then this is another opportunity to get some extra points. If you did not complete exam review 1 and 2, I'm going to open Unit 2 forum, and you can dive in and get extra points here. If you did not complete exam review 3 and 4, I'm going to open forum 4 so you can use that to get extra points here. Last week, you spent the time making sure that your first block 5 is complete. The exams, I graded all of those. The forums are still open. If you think you've missed anything, by Tuesday, you should have gotten all of those things in. I'm going to be on campus a little bit every day next week. You can always come to the media library and find me. But easily, you can always just send me a message. I want everyone here to get as much practice as possible, and I want everyone to accredit this level. All right? So take the time, do your practice. If you're not sure about anything, send me a message, and we can work it out together. All right? So hopefully these additional things will help you get as many points as possible so you can get your accreditation. Before we log out from this final sessions, Victor, Luis, Miranda, Yetzarelli, any questions, any doubts?
No, teacher.
All
Yo
right.
tengo una pregunta.
Okay, let's go with Victor. Go ahead.
Entonces, para subir calificación, podemos subir el foro cuando nos tocaba subir examen, hacer examen.
All right. So if you missed exam 1 and 2, and you did not participate in the activity last week, we were doing something for spring. Yes, go ahead and take advantage. If you missed 3 and 4, I'll also open up another forum so you can take advantage there.
Es solo si no hicimos algún examen, entonces.
Exactly. If you have
Ok.
everything, focus on completing Unit 6 and doing the 2 exams. You have exam 5 and 6 and final exam. All right. If you think you're missing anything, go ahead, take advantage. All right. But focus on making sure you get everything done. If you're still not sure, after the deadline, I'm going to be checking in with people who I'm not seeing scores for. I've started sending messages to the group if I can't find our conversations one-on-one. And same thing, if you have a question, you think something is missing, let me know. I'll check it for you. I think everyone can pass, just need to put in the work. All right. Thank you for being such good students this year. This is the last class we'll have together for the year. And stay working on your units and pay attention to our group messages, our streams, and our emails. I'll be announcing other things as the days goes by. Okay? All the best, guys, and enjoy your long weekend.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank
Bye.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank
You're welcome.